Welcome to Winning Begins at Home. I'm Randy Gravett. Glad you're hanging out with us today for a few minutes. Thanks, by the way, to all of you who've been sharing with your friends and family. Our downloads are continuing to grow. We're loving that. Hopefully some of this content's helping you think about some of the things outside of work. A lot of people talking about how do we win at work, but we always say if you win at work and you lose at home, we think you still lose. And I believe there's some things that are going to stand in the way of you winning in the second half of 2025 here. I've been thinking a lot about this last week. We only did a couple of episodes and I had some extra time to think and spend some time. Like, what's going to keep me from the life of my dreams is the way I wrote it on a paper. Like what's going to keep me from the life of my dreams in the second half of the year? And yesterday we talked about maybe the number one thing that I'm thinking about is complacency. If we're not careful, complacency creeps in. It even leads sometimes to apathy, where we're emotionally detached, disengaged. I mean, that is not the life we want. I know I've had times in my life where I felt disengaged. I just felt like I'm having a hard time here. And if you can really give some thought to that, again, you may want to go back and check that episode out from yesterday, but give some thought to any areas where complacency creeps in. It's just a bad deal. You do not want that in your life. But number two on the list, maybe number one on the list, this might be the number one barrier to the life that you want in the second half of the year. It's not going to be your willpower. It's going to be your attitude. It's going to be your attitude. I said yesterday at the beginning of the year, sometimes we set these resolutions. We think we're all fired up and everything's great and our willpower runs out. I think sometimes it's our mindset. It's not our willpower. It's our mindset. It's our attitude. And I want us to think a little bit about this today. So just like yesterday, maybe some places where complacency has crept in. Are there places in your life where positivity has begun to leak? It's like you've let negativity creep in. And I tell organizations all the time when we get to speak to them that it's really hard to go to a positive place with negative people. I think the same thing's true for the individual. For us at home, we're trying to win at home. We're trying to win in these relationships, trying to win outside of work. It is really hard to go to a positive place. And I'm assuming you've identified a positive place you want to go by the end of the year. We did some work on that the last couple of weeks. It's going to be hard to go to a positive place if you have a negative mindset. We've got to think positively. Now, how do we change our mindset if we've fallen into this trap of negativity? And I'm just telling you, every single day of your life, you're going to have multiple opportunities to have a negative mindset about a circumstance in your life. You can't control your circumstances, but you can control your attitude. And I'm going to talk a little bit about circumstances as we go on into the week. But today, let's talk about that mindset. Let's talk about our attitude. And let me just give you a couple of things that I think have been helpful to me. I'm usually a pretty positive person, but I want to give you a couple of things that really have been helpful to me through my life as I've thought about this. Number one, I wake up, I try to be positive. Man, my mindset is I want to be positive. I was talking to a leader a while back who we were talking parenting, and this is a big time leader, and he's helping lots of people. And I laugh because when he said this, I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is so good. He said, we're talking about being dads. And he said, I've never met a bad dad who was trying to be a good dad. And it is such a simple statement. And I was thinking, man, that's so good. And I kind of use that mindset here when it comes to positivity. I've never met a negative person who was trying to be positive. Never met a negative person who was trying to be positive. There's a good chance if you've become negative, you're just not trying to be positive. You're looking for reasons to be negative. And by the way, negativity is like a snowball. When it just grows, right? If we're not careful, one thing rolls into the next, and the next thing you know, we got Frosty sitting on the lawn, and that is not what we want. We want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to melt away any negativity. We got to choose to be positive. So to me, it just starts with, I want to wake up every day and I want to try to be positive. And I think about this when I go into a room of people. I want to be the most positive person in the room. Now, it's not a competition. I've said this a couple times in public. If I go into a room and everybody in the room is more positive than me, then that's going to be a really positive room, because I'm going to try my best to be very positive when I walk into a room. And so again, however you want to think about that, however you want to frame that up, but just wake up every day and think, how can I be more positive? Make it your goal to go into every meal, every conversation, every room you go into, every car ride. What would happen if you became the most positive person? I don't know what would happen to everybody else. They can choose to do whatever they want to, but chances are you're going to be a lot more fun to be around if you're more positive. And I can tell you that the times when I'm least fun to be around, you may not think it's fun to be around me ever if you were around me very much, but it's when if my mindset is not positive, that is not a good thing. So that's where I would start, is just let's just make a decision that we want to be more positive. Second thing I would say is surround yourself with some positive people. It is amazing to me how much easier it is to be positive when everybody else around the circle is positive. And I would just remind you that positivity is contagious. But you know this, so is negativity. If we're not careful, we surround ourselves with one or two people. Especially if we're negative, we're usually looking for somebody who's negative, somebody who can feed our negativity. We don't need to do that. So I just want to ask you today, are there places in your life where you've gotten negative and you've got some negative people around you and you're just feeding that vicious cycle? Let's stop that. You get to choose to be more positive today. Surround yourself with some positive people. And then the third thing I would say, and this is helpful to me every time I'm tempted at all to be negative, I really stop and think about what is it in my life that I have that I could be grateful for, that I can be positive about. And the truth is, not everything in your life is negative. You may think it is, but it's really not. You get one negative area and all of a sudden you think everything's negative. That's really not true. You got a lot to be thankful for. If you're listening to this and you've got technology and access and all that stuff, you even have a phone. I mean, you're so much better in a better situation than most of the people in the world who are struggling just to survive. Education and poverty and all kind of stuff going on all over the world, a lack of education, and it just becomes a struggle to survive in some of those environments. And yet we act like we've got it so hard. And you may have it hard. You may have really hard circumstances. Again, we're going to talk about circumstances as we go here. But today, I want to remind you that you do have things to be grateful for. And if you can reframe your thinking into, I'm going to be positive, I'm going to surround myself with some positive people, and I'm going to look for something to be grateful for, I think our minds can begin to change. And here's what's on the line. If you don't think this way, if you don't change your mind and become more positive, if you are in a negative place, again, you're going to have a hard time getting to where you want to go. It's hard to go to a positive place with a negative mindset. We really can't do that. So let's think positive today. Our attitude, our mindset, it really is going to be a determinant as to whether we get to where we want to go or not. And I really want you to give that some thought today. Pick an area where you can be more positive and work on it. Focus on it. Maybe even share with somebody, have them hold you accountable. Share with them that you're trying to work on this. And I think you can make progress. I know there's never a time where I'm not trying to be more positive, and I hope you'll have that same mindset. All right, love you guys. Hope you'll join us tomorrow. We're going to talk circumstances tomorrow, and I think there's some things that we can do if we're in those hard circumstances that might make it a little bit better for us. So hope you'll join us for that. Remember, winning begins at home.